Today's top stories. The AFP blames the New People's Army for the death of a UP Los Baños student in a clash with government troops in Laguna. The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines supports the measure expanding maternity leave for workers. Baguio's anti-smoking task force destroys thousands of pesos worth of confiscated cigarettes. And the BIR plans to monitor gaming operations to determine the number of foreign nationals working in the country.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Armed Forces of the Philippines has condemned the death of a student from UP Los Baños in a clash with the New People's Army in Laguna. The military has blamed the communist group for brainwashing him and sending him to his death. More on this from Janice Cabe.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines says the New People's Army is responsible for the death of UPLB student in last week's clash in Laguna. The UPLB veterinary student was reportedly recruited by the NPA earlier this year and was killed in an encounter with Army troops last February 14. AFP Public Affairs Chief Noel De Toyato says the student is a victim of deceit and brainwashing of the CPP and PANDF. He said students like him, who could have been productive citizens, are instead recruited, indoctrinated, and then sent to their deaths while fighting government troops. The NPA is listed as a terrorist organization by the United States and the European Union. Former NPA members have added their voices to calls to discourage students from joining the communist rebellion. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
The Philippine National Police encourages fishermen and coastal residents to continue reporting suspicious items floating at sea. This follows the discovery of bricks of cocaine in some coastal areas of the country. PNP spokesperson Bernard Banac urged the public to help recover these suspected drug packages. He warned residents not to make money out of any recovered drugs as possession is a non-bailable offense. Meanwhile, Banac thanked the residents who reported at least 90 bricks of cocaine they found off the waters and shorelines of Dinagat Island, Camarines Norte, and Surigao del Norte last week. The latest package recovered was a cocaine shipment worth about 5.2 million pesos, which was found along the shoreline of Barangay Bagumbayan, Paracale Town in Camarines Norte. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or CBCP, urges victims of abuse by members of the clergy to speak up. Bishop Pablo Virgilio David says victims should not stay silent but instead report the abuses to make sure that the wrongdoings are stopped and corrected. However, reporting such cases must be based on the truth rather than rumors. The CBCP official noted that the Catholic Church will tackle alleged abuses by members of the clergy in a meeting set in the Vatican this week. PCOOU dismissed criticisms that the press freedom caravan in Europe is a junket and a waste of public funds. PCOOU Secretary Martin Andanar says the caravan happens to report on issues of involuntary disappearances and anti-communist terrorist groups, among others. He says part of the agency's mandate is to explain to international bodies the government's side-on policies, including the achievements of the administration. Andanar earlier said they will discuss with European media the state of press freedom in the country. A fire destroys 2 cars owned by a senator in Mandaluyong City, and the PNP orders the removal of campaign posters in government offices. More on these and other news around the metro from Rom Dulfo.
2 cars of Senator J.V. Ejercito were burned in a fire that broke out at the Autoplus repair shop in Mandaluyong City. Ejercito expressed sadness that his lucky car, a Toyota Sequoia, was among the many vehicles that were destroyed. The senator's other vehicle was a Ford Everest. The blaze started around noon and was declared fire out over an hour later. Fire investigators are still probing what caused the blaze. Meanwhile, PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde ordered the removal of all campaign posters from government offices and buildings as mandated by COMELEC. He says this is to maintain a level playing field in the coming elections. Albayalde assures the PNP will remain apolitical and will refrain from partisan political activity. In other news, Malacanang dismissed of rumors that President Duterte spent his weekend in Hong Kong to receive medical treatment. Presidential spokesman Sal Panelo explains it would be almost impossible to hide it from the public since Filipinos recognize him even abroad. He said the president flew to Hong Kong to celebrate the birthday of his longtime partner Hanalet Avancenia. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
Still to come, the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines supports the measure expanding maternity leave for workers. Baguio's anti-smoking task force destroys thousands of pesos worth of confiscated cigarettes. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Ulat sa ginagawa ng Presidente. February 8, Biyernes, Albay. Panauhing pandangal si Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa Peace and Order Summit for Barangay Officials na dinaluhan na mahigit 2,000 barangay officials, governors at mga mayor mula sa 6 na probinsya ng Bicol Region.
Any politician, whether for or against me or my administration, are bound by the same limitations of law. That is the Alunan doctrine which I am adopting because it is good for the country.
February 9, Sabado, Davao City. Nag-courtesy call kay Pangulong Duterte si Japanese Foreign Minister Taro Kono na may 3-day official visit sa Pilipinas. February 11, Lunes. Ipinamahagi ng Pangulo sa mga magsasaka ng Maguindanao ang 834 Certificate of Land Ownership Award na katumbas ng halos 200 ektaryang lupa.
Sabi ko nga kay Secretary Castriciones, ibigay mo na lahat yan sa panahon ko. Lahat ng lupa ng gobyerno. Wala namang nakikialam dyan. Pati bukid, ibigay mo na, ititulo mo para mataniman at maging progresibo.
February 13, Miyerkules. Pinangunahan ni Pangulong Duterte ang inaugurasyon ng Moscati Meadows Residential Treatment Facility, isang drug addiction treatment center.
This 1-hectare residential addiction treatment center, which targets to accommodate up to 50 patients who will undergo a 6-month holistic rehabilitation program, is truly in line with this administration's efforts to combat the drug menace that has plagued our society for so long.
Ako po si Secretary Martin Antanar. At ito ang Duterte on Duty. Abangan sa susunod na linggo ang mga gagawin ng Pangulo.
The Presidential Communications Operations Office.
President Rodrigo Duterte has signed a law creating the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. The measure consolidates all government housing agencies into one department. The department will also combine the functions of the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council and the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board. Senator J.V. Ejercito, chair of the Senate Committee on Housing, Urban Planning and Development, earlier said the creation of the department will serve as a response to the problem of divided agencies that is managed by a council to better address the housing problems of the country. The measure further seeks to solve the backlog on government housing. The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, is confident that President Rodrigo Duterte will sign into law the consolidated bill on expanded maternity leave. TUCP President Raymond Mendoza cited a similar ordinance signed by then-Mayor Duterte in Davao City, which gives a 90-day maternity leave to all female employees. Once the bill is signed, the maternity at infant protection period will be extended to 105 days. Under this bill, mothers will be given enough time to rest and breastfeed their babies. Following the taho tantrums at an MRT station, another foreigner was arrested for a similar attack on a cop in Puerto Galera, Oriental, Mindoro. The suspect was identified as Fereshte Najafi Marbuye, an Iranian national. Marbuye was the subject of a complaint for causing alarm and scandal last Sunday. While under detention, the suspect went hysterical and started cursing the police. She also burned a cop's hand with a cigarette and kicked him. Marbuye is now facing charges of direct assault upon a person of authority. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde reminds foreign nationals in the country to respect and obey the laws of the land. The Department of Information and Communications Technology is finalizing its common tower policy within the second quarter of this year. The policy will enable cell tower companies to build infrastructures that may be leased by telcos to enhance the quality of their services. It will also allow the entry of more tower providers, as this will ultimately be more cost-efficient for the telcos. The Common Tower Initiative is expected to generate about $4.4 billion in new investments and create thousands of domestic jobs. Provincial and regional health offices continue their efforts to curb the recent spread of measles. In Baguio City, local health workers offered house-to-house free vaccination starting yesterday, February 18. Anti-measles vaccines, anti-Japanese encephalitis, oral polio vaccines, as well as oral vitamin A supplementation are given to recipients. In Noveleta, Cavite, rural health units will hold a month-long immunization drive for its 16 villages. The project will run until March 29. Meanwhile, South Cotabato targets 6,700 kids for its ongoing catch-up measles immunization drive. Barangay health workers will also provide vaccines for mumps and rubella. In Central Visayas, the Department of Health assures that there are enough measles vaccines in their intensified sitio-level information drive. They are targeting 100% measles and rubella immunization in the region by the end of the first quarter of this year. Authorities in Baguio City destroyed some 150,000 pesos worth of confiscated cigarettes. Meanwhile, about 4,000 volunteers hold a cleanup drive in Carigara Bay in Leyte. More on this and other stories from the provinces from Janice Cave.
In Baguio City, the Smoke-Free Task Force led the destruction of sacks of cigarette packs worth around 150,000 pesos, which were seized during the implementation of Smoke-Free Baguio Ordinance. The city collected a total of 2.54 million pesos in 2018 from fines paid by violators. In Leyte, about 4,000 volunteers led a coastal cleanup drive in Carigara town. The cleanup event covered the villages of Guindapunan West, Guindapunan East, San Mateo, Bariis, Baybay, Visoria East and West, Tangnan, Barugay Norte, and Naugisan. The activity gathered 10 truckloads of solid wastes from the shoreline. In Surigao del Sur, Congressman Butch Pichay led the distribution of assistance to over 200 beneficiaries of TUPAD or Tulong Panghanap Buhay para sa ating displaced workers. Each beneficiary received a cash assistance of 6,100 pesos. TUPAD is a project under the Department of Labor and Employment that provides emergency employment for displaced workers, underemployed, and unemployed poor. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, the BIR plans to monitor gaming operators to determine the number of foreign nationals working in the country. Philippine sports officials host a meeting on preventing drug abuse in athletes. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
The Environment, Tourism and Interior Departments recommended to close Boracay for 6 months.
To address issues such as illegal structures and faulty drainage systems that is affecting Boracay's prized beach.
The last time na nandito is 2017. It's actually crowded. Sobrang dami ng tao. Everywhere, makikita mo talaga bars and drinks and masamahalat talaga.
We had more cases of skin disease. We had more cases of diarrhea.
So nagkasama-sama lahat ng mga agencies, tiningnan ano ba ang plano natin sa Boracay, compliance on Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, at saka yung ating environmental compliance.
When they started demolishing, we saw that there was action, that they put their money where their mouth is.
Lahat ng nagamit na tubig ng customer, we collect it through our sewer lines, and then it goes through a treatment process sa treatment plant.
It was nice that it happened. Finally, Boracay got the attention it is in deep need of.
I think a lot of work was done during the closure. The water is clear, the oceans are clean, there seems to be a lot of wildlife returning. We had for the first time in 10 years, we had turtles hatching on the beach a couple of days ago.
During the closure, you could see like the eagles came back and everything that we have had for a long time.
Pumasyal pa nga yung mga kwan dito budanding, galing ho na Cebu.
In the end, it's a good thing, yes. It was hard for us, but it was also a wake-up call.
The beach was cleaned up and is officially set to reopen on October 26th.
Wala nang kumakain sa beach, bawal nang manigarilyo.
Gumanda yung isla namin as in bumalik sa dati na ambience.
We teach kids about pollution, solid waste management, because they're the ones who will sustain all the things that we're doing now.
Malacanang welcomed the initiative of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, or BIR, to register and monitor foreign and local gaming operations. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo describes this development as a good measure since it also aims to monitor the number of Chinese nationals working in the online gaming industry. He says the move is likely to ensure that correct corporate taxes will be collected. He adds, the palace is not alarmed by the influx of Chinese workers in the country. In 2018, 393 foreign nationals were arrested for overstaying or working without a permit. Over 300 of the arrested were Chinese. Saudi Arabia, through its Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, has ordered the immediate release of over 2,100 Pakistani prisoners being held in the country. Pakistani Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi expressed his gratitude regarding the release of the prisoners. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan earlier raised the issue of Pakistani prisoners detained in Saudi jails during his meeting with the Crown Prince this weekend. The Crown Prince started his tour of South Asia and China with a 2-day visit to Pakistan, where Riyadh and Islamabad signed agreements worth $20 billion. The Philippines will host the board meeting and doping control officer training course of the Southeast Asian Regional Anti-Doping Organization, or CRADO. CRADO seeks to improve standards in preventing the use of banned performance-enhancing drugs in athletes. The organization has been working to fulfill the country's obligations under the 2015 World Anti-Doping Code, the UNESCO International Convention Against Doping in Sport, the World Anti-Doping Agency, and CRADO's strategic development programs. Baguio City Country Club opens its doors to food products of micro, small, and medium enterprises. It recently launched a food camp as part of its assistance to the city's small businesses. Joyce Cudis has the story.
Food items produced by micro, small, and medium enterprises in Baguio City have found a venue at Baguio Country Club's Food Camp, which opened on February 15 this year. The food camp will serve as a one-stop shop in the club's contribution to the city's tourism, providing new and alternative activities for tourists and locals alike. As an added attraction, there will also be entertainment provided by local bands and singers on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Last year, the BCC Food Camp offered a variety of Japanese, American, Mediterranean, Mexican, Chinese, Filipino cuisines aside from sumptuous desserts. The food camp is open from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. during weekdays and 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekends. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Joyce Goodies.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's top stories.
The AFP blames the New People's Army for the death of a UP Los Baños student in a clash with government troops in Laguna. The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines supports the measure expanding maternity leave for workers. Baguio's anti-smoking task force destroys thousands of pesos worth of confiscated cigarettes. And the BIR plans to monitor gaming operations to determine the number of foreign nationals working in the country.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.